Hi everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider. This segment is going to address heated gear, specifically for your feet. So there's basically four ways to go with this. One is obviously socks or layer socks, so base layers, either synthetic or natural fibers, and getting a thin layer right up close to your skin that can wick away the moisture, and then another layer that is a little bit thicker to provide insulation. The rest is obviously up to your footwear, which is a different subject. Obviously, point of diminishing returns depending on the configuration of your bike, the speed at which you're riding, and obviously the climate, the temperature. There'll become a point in time where it doesn't matter how much insulation you have around your foot, it's going to get cold. Unless you're moving, which you're not on the bike, your physical body moving to generate additional muscle warmth. So then the other thing you can do is go to heated gear. So that can be battery operated. There is an extremely large selection of those available with run times from a couple hours for the pocket warmer stuff where you just crack a little package open and stuff something in the bottom of your boot or in your sock, to the battery operated stuff. That technology has improved greatly with the lithium batteries. You can pretty much get a full riding day out of the cordless socks with the lithium battery. Disadvantages of those are that they are generally set it and forget it, which sounds good at the onset, but if the temperature is a little too warm for you, you have to pull over to turn the socks off. You're not likely to be able to dress that, pull up your winter pants and turn the switch on or off. There are some that are remote control, some that have remote tethered controls. Those are a little bit more rare. The remote controls, by that I mean they give you a little key fob with it or something, are getting more commonplace, but there's a stiff barrier to entry in that still as far as cost is concerned, and they haven't been out in the field that long, so they're not completely proven out. Not saying they're good, not saying they're bad, just saying it's something to consider as you individually pursue what you want to do. The other items are either hardwired or a hybrid, where they can run off a battery, or a hardwired connection to your bike and run off the 12-volt accessory port, or a hardwired run to the battery. Those are in configurations of either a sock with wires or some kind of carbon fiber elements running through them, or an insole. The insole is basically like a Dr. Scholl's looking thing with a wire hanging out of it. You trim it to fit and you stuff it in your footwear. Advantages and disadvantages to both. The socks obviously go up your ankle and your calf sometimes and provide more warmth, and obviously they can also potentially put warmth on the top of your foot depending on how they're constructed. If it is just the insole, then the heat is generated underneath your foot. Good news there, heat rises. So unless you've got a lot of air infiltration into your footwear, your boot, or your riding sneaker, or whatever it is you're wearing, the heat should generally rise up your foot, and if it's not too tight inside your footwear, the heat should rise and go up the cuff of your pant and not sweat you out. Most of those, either the socks, the hardwired socks, or the hardwired insoles, are meant to be used with some manner of external temp controller. More often than not, they do not come with this controller, so that's a cost factor to keep in mind when you run across a bargain that you might need something else. What I have heard from a lot of people is, the heated socks are the bomb. Everybody likes the heated socks, and Gerbing is one of the top 3 names out there. They have their microwire technology, and the wires are pretty small, very unobtrusive. But if you're going to a rally or something and you don't want to change, it's cold out, you don't want to take off your shoes and socks at the rally and get into walking gear, you're gonna be walking around on that. So that's wear and tear on the heated sock, which they're warranted to hold up against for a certain period of time. But my question is, would you rather be warm, or would you rather be honoring a warranty claim and waiting for your crap to come back from the manufacturer or get your credit or voucher or whatever? I have no personal experience with any heated socks going bad, so again, I'm just pointing out potential things to consider as you make your choices. I landed on the insoles. I think that is probably going to last longer. The downside to the insoles are, as already stated, they only heat the bottom of your foot. That's a concern for you. If the top of your foot predominantly gets cold, you're going to have to decide, talk to some buddies or somebody that's running the exact item that you're thinking of getting to find out what their experience is. But the idea is that it would last a little bit longer. The trim to fit that I mentioned before is a bit interesting in that you're probably going to have to buy another pair of off-season riding shoes or boots for cold weather or wet weather before the insoles wear out. So why is that a problem? That means the insoles are lasting quite a while, right? Well, that's a problem because you trim to fit, and if the next pair of boots is manufactured overseas or domestically, depending on where they come from and what that manufacturer's sizing is, that insole could now fit a little tight or a little loose. So what I would caution you is when you trim to fit, take off no more than you absolutely need in order to be comfortable. You don't want a little lip sticking up in the toe box. You want to trim it so it lays flat so that your foot comes down on a flat thing and you don't get a blister on the tip of your toes, hitting some little lip that's rising up because you didn't trim it enough. But you don't want to trim it so much that the time you get into the next pair of boots, it's a 1/4 inch too small on both sides and your foot is hanging down over the edge of that insole now, and or the insole sliding around the boot and you have to put in some rubber cement or something to fix it to keep it from moving around. So those are things to consider. And again, like I said, think about the external controller and how you're going to get power down to your feet. That doesn't sound like a daunting task, but there's 2 ways to do it. One is if you already have heated pants and if they have the wires and the ankle cuff coming out for heated socks or heated insoles, you can daisy chain off of that and either run them at the same temperature as the pants, or I think in some cases you can split the input up at the top of the pant and run off to a separate heat. It's called the heat controller is generally referred to as a heat troller in the industry. So I'll use the term heat troller throughout the heated gear series. So think about that too. If your feet get too hot and you're turning off the heat troller that runs, or the thermostat or whatever that runs both your pants and your feet, but your legs were cold, the top of your thighs or your knees, then everything's getting cold while you're waiting for your feet to cool off. So that was one way, is to daisy chain it off the pants, and that's the standard methodology. But believe it or not, there's quite a few manufacturers out there that no longer are offering the little cable at the bottom of the cuff for the heated footwear. The other way is literally to run a wire down your pant leg. Not quite as obtrusive as it sounds. The heated insoles draw about 1.2 amps at max heat range, which I don't know anybody that needs that. If it's that cold out, I'm probably not riding if, where it's at 0 degrees or sub-zero with wind chill. But what you would do is, you would go ahead and as you put on your pants, you'd run a Y harness down, and it's literally what they think it's a Y, and you've got one down one leg, one down the other leg, and it comes up on either side of the crotch to a common connector, which then goes to the heat troller. If you're a stunt rider, I don't know why you're out in this weather, but if you're doing that much moving around, that wire might get on your nerves after a while. If you're wearing some kind of lined pants where you can get the wire in between the outer shell and the liner without compromising anything, that might be another way to go. I would not recommend running the wire down your leg external to your leg. Even if you bungee cord it to the side of your leg or something like that, it's just too likely to get caught up on something and serve as a distraction. So that is the intro to heated footwear. We're going to do an unboxing or, product review of probably it's like Gen 1 or Gen 2 Gerbing heated insoles. They are not the latest and greatest, but they were a moderately priced option. I think all in with shipping, it wound up being like under $70. for the insoles. The newer versions run closer to like 90 some dollars. And remember guys, when you're out there shopping for this stuff, you don't want to buy crap. You don't want to buy something that's a hassle, something that's going to distract you when your mind should be on the road. But there is stuff available from yesterday or 5 years ago, or sometimes even 10 years ago on the shelf that's still viable, that was the latest and greatest of its day. And, you know, you shouldn't be dissuaded from at least taking a look at it. You know, you don't want something that's dry rotted or anything like that. It's nuts crazy, you know, but obviously. But, you know, do a review of the thing, see how people said it held up over the years, and maybe, you know, you'll decide that's something I could save a few bucks on, so maybe I'll go down that road. And I have an example of that I'll dive into in the other segment on the heated gloves. So the other thing is, if you want a complete heated gear outfit, I'll do a more holistic segment on that in a moment, in another video, and we'll talk about the barrier to entry cost-wise for that, and the considerations you have to have about your charging system. And depending on type of bike you ride, that may be a more first and foremost consideration than anything else you can think of to get started in your journey. So that's great. You know, glad you could join. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Comment if you have questions, and if you feel like it, you can subscribe. If you don't feel like it, you know, no harm, no foul. You know, we don't mind if you move on to somebody else. There's a lot of other channels out there. We appreciate you looking at ours. Ride safe. Namaste.